Hello there, it's Lynda Hill here. I thought I'd make this little video to describe what happens when I do my chart readings. It's good to have an outline of what actually happens when we do a chart. When I do a chart, but I do a chart for you. So what happens is basically you send me by email to sabiansymbols@gmail.com or lindahill@gmail.com. My name is spelt with a Y. You send me after you make the payment through PayPal, through my website, you send me your time and date and place of birth. Now, if you're not sure exactly what time you were born, or even if you don't even know in the entire day, I can still do the chart for you. I used to say no to people, and I used to think, oh no, I can't do that because I don't know the time. But for a long time now, I've realized that you can still get a lot out of a chart reading uh, without the time of birth, or without even an accurate time of birth. If you have a rough time, then that certainly will do. So the time and the place and the date of birth, and if you're going for the reading where I do the stream of consciousness thing, that's the reading where we don't actually have a consultation per se. We don't have a conversation. What happens with that is that you make the payment and you send me an outline of your life, and I really only want a paragraph. I don't want War and Peace. I don't want several pages. And in fact, sometimes I do it without any sort of outline at all. But I think it is quite good to have like a paragraph, are you married? What's going on in your life? Basically, just a little bit. Do you have kids? It can be stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be much. The less the better, in fact. So then what happens is that, fairly soon after I get your payment and your email, depending on how busy I am, I will suddenly get this feeling to do your chart. It happens to me quite spontaneously, and I'll go, oh, I'm going to do her chart right, or his chart right this minute. And so it sort of works like a flow of consciousness. So what I do is obviously I cast a chart and look at the progressions and the transits. Now, if you don't know much about astrology, that is certainly no bar to getting a chart done. You just, if it's quite good for me to know whether you understand the language of astrology, because if you tell me that you don't understand it, then I will explain some things a little bit more. But regardless of what I do with that, there's always Google. So if I say something and you're not entirely sure what the astrological meaning of that is, you can go and look it up in Google. And that works really well because what I'm concentrating on is the story. And the story will be told through the Sabian symbols in your chart and the chart of your progressions and your transits. Now, what happens is I get this sort of like stream of consciousness thing, and I talk a bit like I'm talking now. I just start talking, and I finish talking usually about an hour and 5 or 10 or 15 minutes later. And so I just talk about your chart, what's going on, what's coming up, the stuff that was happening when you were young and stuff like that. But I really pack a lot into just over an hour. I say to people, you'll need to listen to it again. And I had one woman where I did the consultation where we spoke on the phone, and I said, oh, you'll need to listen to that again. And she said, no, I won't need to listen to it again. I've got a really good memory. And then, a couple of weeks later, she emailed me and said, I've listened to it 4 times more. So, because you get so much out of it. It's not something that you can really even take in one listen, really. I look at the Sabian symbols for your sun, your moon, your Venus, your Mars, and all that, and I look at the degrees before and the degrees after, and I look at the transits and the progressions, and so it really becomes quite a story that you put together in your life. And then I talk about what's coming up as well, what the issues are, what you're dealing with, or what's opening for you, what's unfolding. It can be really, the Sabian symbols can be incredibly what's the word? Literal. Or they can be, also rather symbolic. So, but it's not something you have to wade through. It's not difficult to understand. It is, very easy to understand. I make sure of that. I'm very into being understood because it's very important. So what happens is that if you go for the option of the no conversation, I do it when the moment strikes me, and I actually think that they're better readings. Um, it's funny, I would never have said this years ago. I would have said, you're off your rocker. How could that be better? It's so much better to have the person there, talking and, because you can bounce off them and everything. But it's really funny. I find that I get a lot more into a reading when there's not the other person there. And the reason that is quite often is that people really like to talk when they're on the phone with me or on Skype. And I understand that. I think it's great. And I think that listening to ourselves can be extremely instructive. And I think that those, and of course I realize that some people really want to have the conversation. They really want to talk to you. That's part of the deal. But the thing is that I think that the ones where we make the appointment for, the conversation on Skype or the phone, they're sometimes better as a follow up. It's sort of like, I think it really works well where the first one, I just do the stream of consciousness thing where all this stuff just comes out of me. Sometimes I don't even know where it comes from. Well, I do know where it comes from in a manner of speaking, but you know, I have been surprised by what comes out of me. So, it's just some sort of a connection into something that goes on there. So what happens next is, like I'll have recorded or we'll have had the conversation, whichever. And it's funny because my phone just went. I record it. It doesn't matter whether we have the conversation by phone or Skype, or I do the stream of consciousness thing and just record my observations. It doesn't matter which one we do. I then send you a link to the recording. I upload it to the internet, to a platform called You Send It. It's very easy. I send you the link by email. I also send you the charts that I read from, regardless of whether you understand them or not. It's good to have those. I also give you as a gift the PDF of my book, The Sabian Oracle. And so what you can do with that is you can go further into the reading at some other point. Why I say that is I don't think you really need to do it the first time you listen to the reading. I think that that's something as a follow-up, delving into your chart, delving into the Sabian symbols. It's really good to go to my book and look up the certain Sabian symbols in there and read much further about those symbols. I've written a whole heap of, on each individual Sabian symbol. There's 360 of them, of course. I've written, quite a long interpretation of each one. And so you can really go into it more and you can learn more about yourself and more about what's going on. And of course you can use that, like if you know where Mercury is today, you can look that up. It's useful. Wherever there's a degree of the zodiac, you can look up the Sabian symbol. So I send you the recording, regardless of whether we have the conversation or not. I still send you the recording and you download it to your computer. Now, some people I see, they keep downloading it and downloading it and downloading it, and that might be because they're operating on something like their phone or something, and they don't have the space to save it. But the best thing really is to save it to your computer or save it to a tablet. But because I realized that people really want to listen to these readings several times, and they might be operating off, something where they don't want to download that file into their thing, they can keep going back because I leave the recording up on the You Send It platform. It's very simple to download that. Don't think that that's complicated. You just click on a link and off it goes. And it's also very secure. No one's going to, access that. They can't access your recording. Only you can. So that's basically how that works. And so I thought that it might be useful to flesh this out a bit so that you understand. I always record. I always look at what's going on in your chart. I always look at what's coming up, and my brain always goes to all sorts of things. I never really quite know where I'm going to go. This is what a chart basically looks like. I don't know if you can see that there, but yes, I do the chart and I do the progressions, and that's what I read from. And the mysteries are revealed through the Sabian symbols and through the mystery of astrology. Anyway, I hope that's answered some of your questions. I don't think there's anything else. Most of the time you'll get your reading within a week of making the payment. Sometimes it'll be within the next couple of days. It depends on how busy I am. So, sometimes I find myself really, very busy, and other times I'm, got plenty of time. It depends. At this point in time, I have time. So, because sometimes I put time aside for writing and I just go, no, I don't want any readings to come in now. And other times I go, yes, I'm going to turn on the tap of the readings. And it always works. So, at the moment I have quite a bit of time. So if you want to get a reading, and I can concentrate a bit on what's coming up next year if that's interesting to you. These readings are great, whether you're on a spiritual path, you want to understand that, or you want to understand your creative path, or you want to understand your relationship issues, or it's, any of those things. These readings are incredibly insightful. Yeah, I think that you will enjoy a reading with me. It is a very different reading. And people say, oh, I had my chart done 18 years ago. I don't know whether to get it done again. Well, this is different. This is the Sabian symbols, and they are wild. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. You can go to my site, www.sabiansymbols.com, and look for consultations with Lynda, and that'll send you to the links. In the description of the reading, I put that mini reading. Well, it's not a mini reading. I don't know why I called it that, and I need to rewrite that page. It's no big deal. Oh, and the payments are in US dollars for those who might not realize. If you have trouble paying and you're an Australian or a New Zealander, or for that matter, a Canadian, feel free to write me and I'll tell you how you can pay in Canadian or New Zealand or Australian dollars, and it will be cheaper. But in general, I've kept the rates right down, and I do intend to put the rates up fairly soon. So get in and have your reading and enjoy. Bye.